Picasso we're going to talk about for a minute. Florida. Paul, you're on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Dr. Savage, I was just calling. I heard the earlier caller talking about Picasso, and I wanted to explain. I've got an art history background, and when you see these pictures of him where he's got like two noses on a woman, that's because he was experimenting with perspective. And so he might have two different perspectives, like a profile and a frontal view of the same model. Okay, but stop right there. Then why didn't he pick one and then run with that one? Why did he leave two on the same painting? Because he was experimenting in a time when the question was, what is art? Because you had Cubism, Surrealism, Dada, all of that, and the artists in that post-impressionist era were questioning what is art. So, in that context, he didn't need to choose a profile or a frontal view of a model. He could combine them. And also, you could follow that up by saying most of us see things in multiple perspectives at the same time anyway. In other words, if we're looking at a person, we don't see a single image of that person. We see a multi-layered personality in front of us, don't we? In other words, especially if we know the person, we're analyzing him, that individual is saying, well, that's interesting. She's got a nice face, but I remember when, or I wonder if. Correct? We're seeing multiple aspects of that human being in front of us. I would say that that's a reasonable analysis of Picasso's projections as well. Exactly, and most of his models were girlfriends and mistresses and things like that, so he did know them. He had the multiple... Oh, today he'd be arrested as a perv for what he did. The country has become so crazy that an artist that we know, Picasso, a great artist, would be shackled and done the perv walk in the Pierre Hotel. Oh, in a minute, simply for using a model. They'd say, oh, you abused her, you exploited her. And he would say, but wait a minute, I paid her and she was happy to live with me and have relations with me. No, you exploited her. She's going to get half of your estate. That's what happened today, the crazy world that we've devolved into because of the Puritanism that's raging in the society. You talk about multiple perspectives. Right now, America is running on several different tracks at once, but on a moral level, we're running on two distinct tracks. One is the most prurient insanity I've ever seen, where these children go to raves with 5,000 people in a nightclub. They're all stoned on a drug. They lift their top up at a moment's notice. They have sex with anybody. And at the same... Yep, crazed society. Insanity. WTNT, Washington, D.C. Kelly, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hi, Dr. Savage. How about in the future you could open perhaps a classical education school for children, because you're classically educated, and maybe even promote the arts towards conservative and traditional values?
That is so nice to hear your voice in the midst of all of this confusion. That's a very beautiful idea. I doubt very much that I could open a school, that's a very complex thing to do. I was considering a Savage conservative scholarship program, and I still am seriously considering it, where I put together a panel of people and we review things that are written by college students, and we give, like $10,000 scholarships to the winners, 10 a year, to help them with their tuition or whatever. I thought that would be a way to do it, right?
Sure, that would be terrific because, to get the future generations to actually think somewhat like you do, even just a smidgen like you do, the way to get them is to get the young minds. And, you have
How do you take a young mind that has been raised in American schools and have them even think at all? How do you get them to even think? Well, I don't believe they know how to think. They're told to group think. They're taught never to think for themselves, even though the big lie in the schools is that we're teaching you to do your own thing, but in fact they're teaching them to do the teacher's thing. They're teaching them to do it takes a village thing. They're not teaching them to do their own thing at all. It's all brainwashing.
That's right. No gender, no race, no identity, no creed.
All right. Let's start with no sexual identity, because that's considered some kind of phobic of some kind if you have a sexual identity. Okay, no national identity, because that's considered nativist to the psychopaths. And now let's go down the list. Even family is looked upon with disdain. A family of a mother and father is now spit upon by the internationalists. You know that as well.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now how do you take a child who's at the age of 20 years old and sit him down and start with the basics? How do you teach him anything? You would need a man with the mind of an Aristotle to do something like that. I'll tell you how I would do it. You want to hear how I would do it? I'll make it very simple. If you gave me 20 people at the age of 20 who had been brainwashed in American schools and were told, okay, you want to teach them something about the real world and real humanity, how the most of the world looks at the world not through the eyes of the psychopaths in the American educational system, I'd start with Plato's Republic. And I would read the classics like Plato's Republic, of course, an English translation, because he goes through, what is the purpose of the state? What is the purpose of the warrior class? What is the purpose of the poet? He wanted to kick the musicians out of his republic. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but another thing...
Go and read Plato's Republic. You're in for a real treat. In Plato's Republic, the interlocutor says, and what of the musicians? And, of course, in the dialogue, he says, the musicians should be thrown out of the state, for they mislead the children. Thank you for the call. I would start with Hollywood. And what, Plato Savage, should be done with the psychopathic drug addicts of Hollywood? They should be deported to Siberia and give Siberia what they've always wanted, which is a film industry. I'll be right back.